Welcome back to another episode of Brands Bites, bringing you bite-sized insights from groundbreaking innovations to the latest gadgets. I'm your host, Tom, and let's just go straight into today's episode. First off, I want to just cover that I'm going to try and do these 3 days a week. We're going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that'll be it because finding enough articles every day on topics I want to talk about on my own is more than I want to do. So we're just going to not bother with that and just do it every 2 days. That way I feel like I'm doing things I want to talk about. Like SpaceX's Starship launch that happened today did actually not happen. So they got all the way down to about, it was like 6-7 minutes, and then they had a pressure valve freeze and did a wet launch instead. Now, these wet launches aren't normal launches like you would expect, but they are going to retry a launch in a few days. Now, wet launches, they go all the way down and do everything but actually igniting and flying the rocket. Now, with that, Elon tweeted out they learned a lot from today so far, even just doing the wet dress rehearsal. And that's great. It was cool to see at least them go through all of it and all the information they have and give you about like the goal of the rocket, how they're using the rocket, what they are trying to like learn that day, the size, all of it is just fascinating. And the fact that you can watch it happen live and listen to mission control on another stream is just a super cool thing to have so openly available to you, especially on a rocket like this that'll be the biggest thing to ever fly in the sky. And they've blown up quite a few of these. The famous belly flop is one thing that's happened, and I'm excited to see this in a few days again when they retry this. It's unfortunate that today was canceled because of a stupid little valve, but in the past, those stupid little valves are the same things that have blown things up before. So, would rather see it launch and have a chance than them launch it with no chance. So, that's good to see. Next up, we have that there is no plans for a ChatGPT 5 in the training, in at least the immediate future. It felt like we went from GPT 3 to 3.5 to 4 fairly quickly, and it sounds like the company's kind of slowing down here, and they're not training a version 5 right now, but they're trying to kind of get GPT 4 to a better spot, a more accurate spot, and work on that at the moment. This comes after people are curious if they're still working forward after all these prominent figures like Elon, Steve Wozniak, Andrew Yang. I believe there was a few other big tech heads that signed a thing saying that we should wait 6 months and figure out a safe way to grow these AIs fast and make things happen. Now, hopefully they'll be good. Now, ChatGPT is not the one that people are concerned about. That one's pretty open and out there, and people can kind of see how it's learning and growing. There's other ones that are more of a black box, let's say, where it's not as open and out there, where there's not as much people kind of being able to keep an eye on it and understand what it's really capable of. And, one of the companies that's proving that to us is Google, because Google's CEO says he does not fully understand how the new AI system Bard taught itself an entire foreign language it was not trained on, and why it keeps having, I kind of have two articles here, it keeps having these hallucinations where it's making up things to get information. Now, the information's not always wrong, but the source sometimes doesn't even exist, which is fascinating that it's doing this. It makes you wonder if really what it's doing is it knows the answer. It doesn't have a place to cite it from, so it makes up a place to cite it from. It's really weird. You know, these new systems that are self-training and self-teaching themselves and growing so fast, it's just wild that you wouldn't be aware that it was going to teach itself a new language on its own. It clearly shows that Google is going a different route than OpenAI, or at least, interestingly, they're being open about it as well, but it's not as available to the public, I guess. Now, the other thing that's really interesting here is it wrote an instant essay about inflation in economics, recommending 5 books. None of them exist at all. And, they call these hallucinations. Again, I wonder if this is just the way it's interacting with us, because that's it doesn't know where it got the info from, or maybe it can't connect the dots, or maybe it just knows and doesn't have a source and doesn't want to cite itself, so it's just kind of, they won't figure out these aren't real and spitting out that. Or, maybe they're taking quotes from places, and when you're taking quotes from places or people that were maybe in audio and they don't have a book, but maybe it's called something and then you shorten the title and bam, you got there. So one of the things here is it cited a book called The Inflation Wars, A Modern History by Peter Tiemann, not sure, which provides a provides a history of inflation in the United States. Now, this book does not exist. But the interesting thing is that almost all these books it's making up are sources. It seems to be mostly sources from what Google has said, is that they're not things that like are far fetched. Like they definitely could be real, which is almost more scary, or just shows you how weird the internet is with things just popping up and being invented and no one really knows what's going on. Tesla is building Giga Mexico, and this is actually fascinating. I've talked about the rumored Model 2. They have this rumored $25,000 car. That's a price point that Tesla has talked about a bunch. Part of Master Plan 3 is hitting that target, and it seems like Giga Mexico might actually be that place to do so. Now, Giga Mexico was confirmed by the governor of Mexico that around 12 to 15 months longer than it took to build Tesla China, Giga Shanghai. This is going to take way longer. Now, Shanghai was built in about 9 months, which is way faster than even Giga Texas or Berlin. And this is supposedly because they're going to be doing a new production line for a new vehicle. Now, people are thinking this is the $25,000 car between 25 and 30K. It could be that. There's a good chance it is that. This has been rumored for a while. That's been, in Master Plan 3, it's been talked about. Now, it could be that. It could also be the new Roadster. All it is we know they're doing a new production line. It would make sense if this was going to be a way cheaper car, just because things are cheaper in Mexico generally, and that's kind of the next step for Tesla is doing that. I don't think the new Roadsters, it needs to be done, but I don't think it's like a top priority for Tesla by any means. And this probably kind of confirms that. Now, I don't know if the governor was supposed to say this, but he did. And, Giga Mexico, they're working hard to get requirements for Giga Mexico, which is going to be like water and electricity and gas needs. They're rushing it in Mexico to do it as fast as they can to help keep Tesla enjoying their stay there. Everybody wants a company like Tesla to have a plant in their country, and once it happens, you better do your end of the bargain because they kind of expect it, and that's how it's going. Elon also has made a new company called X.AI. Now, Elon was a founder of OpenAI and left the company in 2015. Left the company in 2018 after a supposed power struggle between what Elon wanted the company to do and what the company wanted to do. And now, apparently, X.AI Corp is his new Nevada company that he's going to try to develop a competitor to OpenAI, it seems, or some kind of AI intelligence like that. Now, if there's anything you can learn from what Elon does is you can bet that his companies are going to intertwine extremely between each other and work together to make products better. Tesla and SpaceX, for instance, share tons of things from the car to the rocket to the car. Like the Roadster is going to have these cold boost thrusters, which was made from the rockets. The rockets use Tesla Model 3 screens in them. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other overlap on top of that, but a lot of engineers kind of work at both places or work on things from both places. Now you have like the Boring Company and SpaceX also, I believe, kind of work together quite a bit. There's just a ton of working together between Musk companies. Now I know he wants to be dissolved and replaced into Company X, which will be kind of his branch out. X owns Tesla, SpaceX, Twitter, all of it. And I think Twitter Inc. was also dissolved into this company already. And we're going to keep seeing that happen here. I think this is going to be another way for him to, I'm scratching on the name, but the brain chip that he's making, AI technology will be great for that. AI will be great for self-driving tech. There's a lot of things that an AI model will be great at doing that if Elon can have his own AI company doing it, and why not if you're that rich? You can also compete with Google and ChatGPT, and if you're really that upset, which it seems like when Elon's upset now, he just solves his problems by buying the company or making one. And I think this is him solving another problem, and he's going to just make his own AI company that's going to solely focus on that. And knowing him, there'll be a product turned around pretty quickly because that is kind of how he operates. Now, quick is relative, but I would suspect we see something in a year or two if this is really happening and is a real company. On the subject of AIs, we are super AI heavy this episode. Now, AI from Adobe is called Firefly, and this is their own in-house thing. There was some controversy at first because this was a image generation tool that was trained on Adobe's stock, and while Adobe does have rights to a lot of it, there was some questions on, do they owe the artists for the pictures they use to train it, if it uses part of that design in their thing, blah 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 blah. Then they showed some cool stuff of, possible coming with photo editing, being able to type something and it photo edits it in there. And then they showed off this. So this video is sweet. I'm not going to have audio here, but y'all will. And this is awesome. They're going to bring it to video, basically. You'll be able to type in, I want this kind of music, makes that music. Want a sound effect? It'll analyze the video, find a sound effect, and then place it with that perspective clip. Tons of neat stuff like that. Being able to, say you have a video clip and you're like, it was a cool, not awesome day. Make it as we're seeing here, you're just making it into a, night clip or a golden hour clip. Be able to have it auto do like TikToks with the writing on the screen, change text into whatever you want it to, find B-roll to insert into your video, and analyze just everything and do things. This is going to be, Adobe software has sucked for a long time because it doesn't run very well. This kind of technology, assuming it runs okay at least, actually could change that. Now, this could be really cool to see them do stuff like this. I mean, being able to get shot details, be able to change color schemes, change weather, change the sun angle, create sounds and music, generate style and animations from text to dictation. I mean, there's just so many cool things. I didn't mean that to rhyme, but a lot of cool things that can be done with this tech, especially if it's as good as they showed it off. It probably isn't right now because that's typically kind of how you show things off in their best light, and this is probably what that is. This is supposedly not coming till later this year to Premiere, but nonetheless, this is sick. And if it actually works, I think you're going to bring a lot of people back to Premiere. There's a lot of people that are like, I don't want to pay the Adobe subscription. Like, you don't get much out of it compared to just going to DaVinci Resolve, and that's pretty great. Or even Final Cut, which is a one-time payment that is also pretty great. This, however, would be, you could talk me more into a subscription if you had an AI built in that was doing things like this, and if it gets updated more frequently and your software doesn't crash. Right now, the software runs like garbage on just about everything and crashes so often that Mac or PC, nonetheless, it crashes so consistently the second you get a little bit complicated. It's just kind of annoying. But if they can fix that and do this, you can bring a lot of people back to Adobe Premiere and the Adobe Suite. Now, the guess here is kind of that, the release of this will be timed around Adobe Max, which is usually mid-October. So, going to be at the end of the year, but nonetheless, if this is real, this actually comes, it's going to make it so much easier for people to get into doing TikToks, get into doing short video content, YouTube content. You might not need an editor. You might be able to have this be like, this is what I want, spit that out. Here's my script, figure it out, whatever. There's so many cool applications this could have if it really, really works. We'll just have to wait and see if that really works. Last thing here is just a quick one to show you that the mobile space is super messed up. Sega is acquiring Angry Birds developer, I think it's Rovio, for $776 million. Now, Rovio, other than making Angry Birds, I'm not really sure what they've even done in the mobile world. I'm sure there's more to it, but I'm pretty sure it's also only Angry Birds. And, not that Angry Birds has done bad, but it's like one thing they've done, and they're almost worth $1 billion. which just shows you how wild the mobile market is when it comes to just microtransactions. I mean, that's essentially what Angry Birds runs on, is microtransactions. And yeah, Sega Sammy Holdings, the parent company of game developer and publisher Sega, has announced its intention to acquire Rovio, the Finnish studio behind the Angry Birds franchise, for $776 million. This is probably to help Sega bring Sonic games or whatever else to the mobile gaming market, and maybe they want some Rovio devs and want to have them help with other things as well. But for now, this is pretty wild that they're worth this much. I mean, I can't think of even the last time an Angry Birds game was released, and that's pretty wild to see that happen. Short one, but you forget this game existed. I mean, you can't even find the original game or the second one on the Play Store. I mean, you can find the new. They have a new version of the original one that you can get that's like detail for detail, but completely updated for $1. But like the actual original of that game and the actual like Angry Birds 2, you like can't actually find. Like you have to go download an APK on a sketchy site. But this is, I mean, wild. You just don't think mobile developers are that. Like, yeah, I know they make these games, but how much do they really make? Well, if you're worth 776 million, you've made billions, which is quite wild. And with that, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Brand Bites. And I'd love to hear your bits and bites down below. Leave a comment to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe for more tech bites. For now, I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.